Right. Yep. It's working. I'll be back in a second. Het is inderdaad een marathon, ja. Dat kun je wel zeggen. Good luck indeed. Let's hope for a clean race. That's all we want. Usually when I'm commentating, it's never a clean race. At least it seems to be. Let this be an exception. We will certainly have fun. Thank you very much. It is almost time to get started. To what could be a championship decider. More about that in a minute. Because it's time. Welcome back to F1 Broke Boys Tier 5. And it's time for the Canadian Grand Prix round 11 of the season, the penultimate race of the season. And it's not the first time I'm doing Tier 5 this season. I have done the Singapore Grand Prix as well a couple of weeks ago. Tonight, it's gonna be Canada on the calendar. Their walls are oh so close. The risk of crashing out is certainly there, and it's time to go, I believe. it is. Alright, so we've got a championship decider, maybe, on our hands. 2 races to go. Both the Drivers' and Constructors' Championship can be clinched tonight. We've got the 2 Saubers leading the championship. Wizard, 3 points clear of his teammate Kelston. And 20 points clear of WBA Brewdog in the Red Bull. Meaning that Wizard has to win this race basically, and Kelston to not score any points in order to clinch the title. So it's unlikely, but anything can happen, you know. And in the Constructors' Championship, it's almost equally as close, because Red Bull are leading by 4 points over Sauber and 13 points over Williams. So it's unlikely that the championships will be clinched tonight, but it's possible. So we can call it a championship decider. But it's time to kick off qualifying, and the weather conditions really couldn't be much better. Clear skies above us, the sun is out, the atmosphere is great, because we've got a race on our hands. But first off, 18 minutes of qualifying to determine the grid for the race. And we're going to see in a second who's going to go out first. For their runs, track limits will be important tonight, not only in qualifying but in the races as well, as in other tiers we've seen a load of penalties. I counted them a couple of days ago, or yesterday, even the day before, and in tier 3 there were a grand total of 118 seconds worth of penalties during the race among all drivers. So in tier 3 actually only one driver managed to finish without a penalty, which was the race winner. So yeah, track limits are tricky around here, especially around that second chicane. Turns 3 and 4, I think it is, can very easily cut just a little bit too much. Then you've got the chicane near the end of sector 2, where you have to be mindful of the curb on the inside to not overshoot it and run out wide on the outside. And of course the final chicane with not only the Wall of Champions, but a chicane where you can very easily cut just a little bit too much and pick up a warning or invalidation depending on the session. Reese Max, he is the first one out on track in the Haas, but he's not the only one, because SKG Kainzan, he is behind him, and I think Kainzan is the winner of the last 3 races, if I'm not mistaken. 7, 8, 9, 10. Yeah, winner of the last 3 races. He's been on a run, but unfortunately for him, those last 3 races, the last 3 wins, are his only points in this season. So he's not really in contention for the championship. He is 51 points behind Wizard. So theoretically and mathematically, he is in contention. But let's be honest, he really doesn't have a chance, because the chance of Wizard and Kelston not scoring points in either of the races is very low indeed. And Real Aston Army starts off his qualifying quite well by blocking the pit lane and getting disqualified from the session in the V Cup. So he will be starting P17. That's 1 man down, 16 remain. As we look at the Red Bull of F1 XTYZ, he's called the Raikkonen in game, but known as F1 XTYZ, one of the 2 Red Bull drivers this season. And along with his teammate Brewdog, they can secure the championship. Sauber have been catching up lately. They've been more consistent, getting more points over a weekend. So the threat is there that Sauber can actually turn it around. Maybe end up leading their championship after tonight. But F1 XTYZ seems to be the first one to complete a lap time. Actually no, it's Martin in the Williams. He will be the first one. 111.6 puts him on provisional pole position. And then comes F1 XTYZ with 111.5, only 1/10 of a second ahead. But they quickly get replaced by Kainzan 110.7, 8 tenths quicker. Yeah, there's a reason he's won the last 3 races, but he's not going to be in P1 for much longer though, because the man second in the championship, Kelston, has just got on to P1 in the 110.5. Very good job from him, a very good lap from him. His teammate, not as fortunate, 112.5, surely had a moment on his lap, or maybe even backed off, I think, the ladder as he's on another push lap. Not quite improving through sector 1, 700s down on his time as he makes his way onto the second DRS straight. Down into this tricky chicane where track limits are a hazard. Now at the end of sector 2, can he find any more time? He certainly can. 1.9 seconds is what he's gaining right now, which is almost the gap to his teammate. So can you find even more time then in the final sector? Depends if you backed off or not. Into that final chicane, keeping it within the white lines and out of the wall. Very clean indeed. Across the line, and is Wizard gonna go to the top? He is, but a 109.6 by quite the distance to his teammate, putting 9/10 in between themselves and Kelston. So the gaps are already quite significant. Martin has had a moment in sector 2. As Guido Ultimo has gone up to P6. Only 6 drivers so far have managed to set a lap time, with 13 minutes remaining. There comes Daniel, P4. Seconds off, so Wizard of Oz, at the moment really in a league of his own in this qualifying. Brewdog on the mediums, but he has invalidated his lap as iLegends goes to P8, a few tenths behind the Aston Martin. Then we look at the 2 Ferrari drivers, Psycho and Harry. Both of them are on the lap. Harry now into the final hairpin of turn 11. Now making his way on the back straight, using a bit of ERS, still keeping something in his battery to deploy on that final DRS straight. As we head into the final chicane, and Bahamut Zero has been disqualified as Harry invalidates his lap time. That's the second one to be disqualified. What the hell is going on in this qualifying session? Disqualified for blocking the pit lane. I'm not sure where this is coming from, so I haven't really seen it before in Canada, but 2 drivers disqualified because of it. The McLaren of Bahamut Zero and the V-Carb of Real Aston Army. So not particularly a great start to their season. As they claim in the chat, they were trying to let people go by and probably ended up driving a little bit too slowly. And the game just thought, no, let's just disqualify them. Guido Ultimo in the Aston Martin up by 0.5 of a second on his lap. He needs to find a bit more time. He's currently in P8, but he's 2.3 seconds off the man in provisional pole position. Reese Max now up to P7, just behind the Red Bull of F1 XTYZ. Here comes the Aston Martin across the line from P9 all the way up to P5, just ahead of Nearly Psycho in the Ferrari, who has managed to set a lap time, unlike his teammate. Now we look at the Alpine, starting his flying lap. Not quite sure how to pronounce this name, but they will head into the second sector. DXT1 NXA. Interesting name for sure. But he's keeping it within the white lines, which is the most important thing in qualifying, as my controller is empty. Now, coming out of the hairpin, and he's got a lot of ERS still in the battery, which he can use on this back straight, which he's not doing at the moment. Still 60%, so might just deploy everything on that final part of the lap then. We go into the final chicane, and he invalidates as well, unfortunately, to the second part of the final chicane. It would have been a 1:10.3, which would have put them in P2. So that's very unfortunate to invalidate in the final corner. But it happens to so many drivers. He isn't the first, and he definitely won't be the last to do that. Speedy then in the only V-carb remaining. One of few drivers currently without a lap time. Now heads into the hairpin. Seems to be going purple through the second sector. Can he get anywhere near the time that Wizard has currently set? Will he keep it within the white lines through the final corner? The answer is yes. He going very slowly though to the final corner across the line. It's going to be a 1:10, 1:10.6. 1 second off Wizard of Oz, but it puts him in P4. Just ahead of Kainzan, who's also out the track. Yellow flags are out because of Kishan in the McLaren. He is on an outlap. Him and Harry, both of them, not set a lap time just yet, but they are trying to improve. Someone else who is trying to improve is the man currently on pole position, Wizard. He is up by a few hundreds through sector 1, he gaining a few more hundreds through sector 2. Go even faster than he already has. He's got half a second to Brudok, who is in the meantime has gone up to second place onto the front row, splitting the two Saubers with half a second. That is quite the gap. And here comes Wizard of Oz around the final corner across the line. Can he go even faster? He certainly can. 109.5. Loses a little bit of time in the final sector, but still manages to find an improvement. And he's now 6 tenths clear of anyone else. Finds on, then on the lap as well. Down into the final chicane. Keeps it out of the wall of champions. Running it narrow towards the line. And goes up to the front row with a 110.0. Just about in the 110s. Very close to the 109s. But he's now ahead of Brudok and Kelston. But still, almost half a second off the man in P1 right now. Kishan in the McLaren has gone up to P3, that's a good lap from him. Going 8 thousandths quicker than Brudok on his banker lap, or his first timed lap. Harry once again invalidated, he's coming back into the pit lane. A look at Reese Max in the Haas, currently in P12, just ahead of his teammate. But he is going quicker on this lap. Rather find out, not anymore. Invalidates and into the wall he goes on the exit of turn 9. He will have to come back into the pit lane. Not sure if he got damage from that, but it certainly ruined his lap. Danjo in the Alpine has gone ahead of Kelson as well. So that's now 4 cars between the two kick Saubers. Kelston into turn 1, hits the grass on the entry, losing control over the back end. And that is not the way you want to start your lap. And it's the exact same thing that I did on my final qualifying lap on Wednesday in Tier 2. And which in the end put me in P9 on the grid. Very good race that was though. Kelston certainly will not be improving. He is not using the ERS either, so I think he is just going for another outlap and try again. After this lap, he's got a Red Bull right behind him, which is F1 XTYC, but he is on an outlap, so you won't have to worry about getting out of the way. Also, we'll have to make sure they don't smash into each other and pick up a penalty because of it. Sure what F1 XTYC is doing. He's right behind the kick Sauber. Now finally gets past. It looked like he was trying to give Kelston a grid penalty there. As oh my no, oh into the wall, he goes on the exit into the wall of champions as he was about to start his lap. F1 XTYZ hard into the wall, qualifying over, and that will be P11 at best for the Red Bull driver, and that is very unfortunate and very unlucky to see in a race that will be very important for Red Bull. But his teammate's still up there as Near Psycho is in a nice slipstream, or he's either getting held up. Either way, he does find an improvement, gets ahead of the man he was just behind. Guido Ultimo, back end of the top 10. Kelston then on another lap. Appears to be going quick. Ooh, almost losing control over his kick Sauber. Struggling for grip, but he is finding an improvement. Daniel is going out of the session. He doesn't think he can go any quicker. Kelston certainly thinks so, and so does Kishan, although he's not on a lap just yet, but I'm sure he will start one. Kelston is going back to the pit lane to fit a new set of tires. Harry on his third attempt to try and set a valid lap time. Looking good so far, halfway through the lap. Down in P14, his teammate is in P9. Harry is, I think he is not a full-time driver for Ferrari. He's not, but he will be teammates with Nearly Psycho for this particular race. Then on to the back straight, deploying all the ERS. Down to that final corner, can he keep it within the white lines? That's the question. He can. Takes it nice and easy and has finally managed to put a lap time on the board, and it will be a 110.6, putting him in P7. Not too bad at all. His teammate also on the lap, but unable to improve through the first sector. 700ths of a second down as he navigates his way at the end of sector 2. Gains just a few hundreds, but still down on his time. 45 thousandths to be precise. Lady Psycho needs 3 tenths in order to find or gain a position, which will be difficult in this final sector. But he's got just under 2 minutes remaining. If he's got enough fuel in the car, he can go for another lap after this one. Kishan has retired from the session. He won't be improving either in P3. But Wizard of Oz, Kainzan and Brewdog and Kelston, the top 6, are on their outlaps, and Brewdog has just started his lap. Let's ride on board with the Red Bull driver as we go through turns 3 and 4. Keeping it nice and easy within the white lines, and the exit of sector 1 improving by 2 tenths of a second already, going a little bit deep going into turn 6. On the exit of turn 7, very tricky with the throttle. Onto the second DRS straight we go. 70% battery still through turns 8 and 9. Looking like a very tidy lap for the Red Bull driver. And he's improving. He lost a little bit of time, but still up by 1.5 tenths. Going into the final sector on the exit now of turn 10 and 11. Into turn 12 this little kick is counted as a corner. And now down to turn 13 and 14. Throwing the car in on the exit, hitting the wall but keeping it within the white lines. Brewdog to the line. Can he find an improvement? He can not find an improvement. Stays in P5. And unfortunately for him, that will be qualifying over. Now let's look at Kainzan, who's up by 4 tenths of a second through sector 2. Kainzan on a very good lap. Not sure if Wishart is improving either. He's right behind his teammate Kelston. You might be giving him a slipstream, or they're both on the lap, I think. But Kainzan through the final 2 corners. Can he put it on pole position? Very, very strong through the final chicane. The Williams driver goes across the line, and Kainzan goes fast at 109.3. What a lap that is. Wizard now of Oz goes across the line. He can't improve. Kelston stays in P6. Brewdog stays in P5. Speedy is into the pit lane. He won't improve either. So I think that is qualifying over unless Guido Ultimo can do anything about it. I don't think he'll be fighting for pole position. So that means that Kainzan is gonna be on pole position for the Canadian Grand Prix by 2.5 tenths to Wizard and almost 8 tenths towards Speedy, as Guido Ultimo does find an improvement and moves up 1 position ahead of Nerdy Psycho to round out the top 10. But that is qualifying done and dusted. Kainzan on pole ahead of Wizard and Speedy. Then it's Kishan in P4, Brewdog in P5, and Kelston will have to settle for P6. Daniel P7, Harry in 8, Martin in P9, and Guido Ultimo rounding out the top 10 with 110.8. The last driver to be into 110s, then it's Nidip Psycho in P11. F1 XTYC in the other Red Bull, all the way down in P12 after crashing out in the final corner, hitting the wall of champions. Well, not quite a champion just yet. They can win the Constructors, but it's going to be difficult from this position. Then it's the 2 Haas cars of Reese Max and iLegends P13 and 14. And the Alpine of TXT didn't manage to set a lap time. And Bahamut Zero and Real Aston Army both getting disqualified for blocking the pit entry. So that is qualifying over. Kainzan, the winner of the previous 3 races, will be starting from pole position. Can he make it 4 in a row? Dry conditions, as it seems. Clouds here and there, but no rain in sight. Strategy-wise, we will be looking at a one-stop strategy, as per usual. Mediums to hards, hards to mediums. Softs really don't last that long. Only a handful of laps, so can only really be used with a very late safety car. Time we'll find out. Strategy is gonna look like. Wizard knows he has to win this race in order to win the title, and he also knows that Kelston will have to have a dramatic race to finish basically near enough outside the points. And Brewdog knows this race is all or nothing if he wants to stay in the title fight. So it's a race filled with opportunities. The Constructors' Championship as well. Red Bull, Sauber and Williams. If Kainzan wins again today, then it might just not be between Red Bull and Sauber, but Williams could be a dark horse. They have been gaining a lot of points in these last couple of races, getting very close. 13 points behind the championship lead. P1 and P9 on the grid. Sauber P2 and 6. Red Bull P5 and P12. Oh, and if I have to believe what I'm seeing here, Chris Max has sent a screenshot in the Tier 5 race chat showing a picture of the weather forecast showing rain towards the end of the race. So if that's true, then we could have a very interesting race on our hands, especially in the final stages where wet weather could throw things around the race on its head. Which is probably why a lot of drivers are opting to start on the hard compound tire to try and make it till the rain. All but 3 drivers, Real Aston Army, he has got nothing to lose. He's starting last on the grid. Guido Ultimo and Wizard of Oz, he is starting on the mediums as well. For an alternative strategy. Hoping that the rain comes sooner than everyone else thinks it will. Either way, it's time. Get this race going. Could we see any of the two championships decided tonight, or will we have to wait till Abu Dhabi next week for the season finale? The pressure is on both of the Sauber drivers. They're fighting each other, but they're still fighting against others as well. Uh, 9:29 here, meaning get the race going, and Wizard of Oz has changed to the hards as Brewdog now going on to the medium. So interesting strategy, but here we go then. The 5 red lights for Tier 5. Round 11, Canada, and the lights are out, and there we go then. Kainzan with a good start. He has the inside line. There was contact behind it. It's Kishan already into the wall, or collided with someone even before turn 1. High drama at the start. Kishan with a very good qualifying, but has collided with someone. I'm not sure who, but before turn 1 he was facing the wrong direction. In the meantime, Kainzan has remained in the lead of this race, ahead of Wizard, Speedy, Brewdog, Danjo and Kelston. They've remained pretty much the same. Going through sector 2 now, Kelston with a bit of a moment on the exit of turn 7. Is under pressure from Harry from behind. F1 XTYC with a good start. He started P11, or P12 actually. He's made up 4 places so far already, up to P8. 2 Haas drivers going wheel to wheel, ahead of Bahamut Zero. Nearly Psychos lost a few positions as well, down to P14. But the biggest loser is, of course, Kishan in the McLaren. He's got front wing damage as well, as the front left end plate is missing. He started on the hards, but he probably will have to pit at the end of this lap. Kainzan though, leading this race, but DRS will be enabled right now, and Wizard of Oz is right behind. As Bahamut Zero, even before the end of lap 1, has already picked up a 3-second time penalty, not ideal. Kainzan, fastest lap of the race. Let's take a look at the tires. In the end, confirmation, Guido Ultimo, Brewdog and Real Aston Army all on the mediums. DRS has been enabled, and Speedy is under pressure from Brewdog, who's got the tire advantage and is now right behind the V-Carb, and Speedy is already out of DRS range. So he still has got the DRS, but the gap's now grown to 1.05. As we're near the end of the sector, 1.2 now struggling to stay with the 2 cars in front. Bahamut Zero is struggling indeed as well, and he's lost a lot of positions, down to P17. He's picked up 2 penalties already as we see him move going into the hairpin. Oh, and there's contact between the 2 Haas drivers coming together almost all on the exit. Very close with the Alpine as well, as that was Reece Max, I think, on the inside. Oh, and Legends has got a 10-second time penalty for corner cutting and gaining 1 place. The 2 Haas cars not really working together in this race, as we almost got 3 wide in the background. Oh, into the wall! Into the wall goes Reece Max on the back straight. Contact with the V-Carb and the Ferrari, I think. 3 wide didn't end well. Virtual safety car has been deployed, and the Haas is out of this race on lap 2 in dramatic fashion. Wizard of Oz has taken the lead of this race, ahead of Kainzan by 1.5 seconds. I totally missed that, unfortunately, but yeah, Wizard has taken the lead. Speedy is still ahead of Brewdog, but neutralization after just 2 laps of racing. Yeah, it was a massive kerfuffle at the back end, and it was asking for trouble going into the hairpin. Which eventually has caused a VSC. Now it's going to be important to the Delta positive not pick up a drive-through penalty this early on in the race. Wishart has got the advantage. 1.1 as it stands. No penalty for speeding under the VSC. DRS enabled. We're going back to racing. Wishart of Oz leads by 1.7 seconds. I really don't know what happened between himself and Kainzan, because Kainzan not only lost the position, but he dropped behind so far to the Sauber out in front. As we see Harry under pressure from the Red Bull from behind. Oh, F1 XCYZ loose on the back end and into the wall on the exit as well. And I think he has come away with it. Yeah, he has. So luckily no damage for him. Does find the wall, who are very close around this track. That is no secret. Background, Bahamut Zero, he's got front wing damage, probably because of that incident. And Legends also losing other positions, not the way Haas would have wanted. First possible start as here comes Brewdog, finally finds a way past Speedy, and he's now up into the podium positions. He has the quicker and better tyre, and he needs to make use of that tyre in these early stages. Kelston drops down to P7, make that P8 almost. F1 XYZ up the inside into turn 1. Wheel to wheel we go. The Red Bull round the outside on the exit will have the better traction, and that's Kelston down into P8 while his teammate is leading the race. While his teammate's going forwards, Kelston is going backwards. He runs a bit wide into the wall as well on the exit of turn 4. Now slowly under pressure from Guido Ultimo, who is also on the mediums, who will be having the tyre advantage in these opening few laps. Out in front though, the gaps have remained the same pretty much between Wishart and Kainzan. But now it's up to Brewdog to try and close that gap. 1.8, he has built a gap already to Speedy out of the DRS range. Will create an opportunity for Daniel in the Alpine. Try and get past as F1 XTYSD is on the charge. P12 on the grid, P6 in the race. He's got past the Ferrari of Harry on the back straight. That is Fuel Aston Army under pressure going into turn 1. Bahamut Zero getting past the V-Carb. The McLaren back up into P14 after a difficult start to this race. Kainzan closing in just a little bit, 1.5. Legends picks up another 3-second time penalty. I mentioned before, track limits, very difficult around here. Even in the higher tiers in F1 Broke Boys, they are an issue. Because Tier X, the highest tier, probably, I think, had the most penalties of all. Which says a lot, as Daniel gets past Speedy. Yellow flags are out though in the background, and that is Martin in the Williams. He has gone off on the exit of the hairpin, turn 11. Which is not great news for Williams in their fight in the constructors. As Kishan drops down to P11, the man who went off at the beginning of this race on the run towards turn 1 on lap 1, now finds himself in P11. Oh, all sorts of sideways action there for Daniel in the Alpine. I saw in a split second the Alpine getting all out of shape mid corner. And Speedy saw an opportunity to try and get past, but couldn't quite find the gap. What I was gonna say was Brewdog is unable to close the gap. In fact, quite the opposite is happening. As he runs a little bit deep as well, the gap's now grown to over 2.5 seconds between himself and the leading pair. Here comes Speedy. Leads past the Alpine, while Kelston re-overtakes Harry, and he's now back up into 7th place. Another 3-second time penalty for Bahamut Zero. I think he already got 15 seconds worth of penalties. 5 track limit penalties on lap 8. At this rate, he is not making the end. He will get disqualified at some point, as our legends pulling into the pit lane and making it a double DNF for Haas Academy. No points for either of them. Isha now also with a 3-second time penalty. Kelston still got the Ferrari for company, while he's also trying to find a way past the Red Bull in front of him. As the gaps a bit spread out in top 10. Daniel trying to hold on to the DRS range of Speedy. There goes the Alpine. DXT gets past Kishan and he's up into P10. So cutting the track a bit in turn 1, big lock up from the McLaren driver. Losing a lot of momentum mid-corner. Continues to fight it out with the Alpine in front. Kelston struggling right now. Gaps over 1 second to the Red Bull. And Harry is all over the back of the Kick Sauber, looking to find a way past, and yellow flags are out once again. That's Martin for the 2nd time in his race going off, as there comes Harry up the inside of Kelston, and he just get the job done. He's now up into P7. I wonder who got the DRS between these two. It is Harry, so he will be able to stay in front. Martin has had a moment, but I don't think it's got any damage to his front wing. Meanwhile, at the front end, the other Williams of Kainsan has now closed the gap to Wizard. 6 tenths or 8 tenths between the two of them. Brewdog is 4 seconds behind. And Kelston now picking up a 3-second time penalty as well. He seems to be struggling in this race. While his championship rivals are out in front, Kelston is struggling to not run to the back of the Ferrari there in turn 6. Are we gonna see Kainsan going for the move? He is closing. He's not going to be able to get past on this straight. Maybe with a good exit out of the final corner. I don't think he's going to quite get close enough just yet on this lap. But on next lap he might have a good opportunity to try and get past, as Kelston continues to swap places with the Ferrari. Very close to the back. Kelston now back up into 7th place. Now on lap 11 of 35, 25 laps remaining. And slowly but surely nearing the pit window for the mediums. A few laps in it, and I think that was... Oh, it was the Alpine of TXT who's gone off. Did he make contact with Kishan is the question. He has lost a lot of time. Kishan now goes wheel to wheel with the Aston Martin of Guido Ultimate, struggling to find traction coming out of the corner. But he has gone for it, and at the front end, Kainsan has now taken the lead of this race on lap 11. He lost it early on in the race, but now he's back into P1. where he started. Can he now try and build a gap? Or is Wizard able to stay with him? Here comes Harry up the inside of Kelston once again. These two fighting it out. And the Ferrari finds himself in front of the Sauber once more. Skishan now gets up into P9. Wizard all over the back of Kainstan. Very good opportunity to try and retake that lead. The clouds are getting a bit darker. We know the rain is probably coming, and Kainstan, on the under braking for the hairpin, completely misjudged the braking, and the back end stepping out, and Wizard of Oz goes round the outside to take the lead of this race. Rare mistake there by the Williams driver into turn 10. Here locking for his Williams. Almost lost him control of his car, but he managed to keep it pointing in the right direction. Only 4 drivers without a penalty. The top 3 and Real Aston Army. Early pit stop for the Alpine, and it's a retirement. So that's why. And Real Aston Army, just as I said, it gets a 3-second time penalty. That leaves only the top 3 without a track limit penalty. 3 retirements already in this race. 14 drivers remaining. Meaning that if Kelston finishes the race, the championship fight will go on to Abu Dhabi, no matter what. Rain coming by the end of the race indeed. So everyone would want to try and stay out until the rain comes, as Wizard of Oz picks up a 3-second time penalty in the final chicane. And he hits the wall on the exit as well, and this could be very crucial in this race, because Kainstan has not got himself a penalty. And if he manages to keep it like that till the end of the race, he doesn't need to overtake the Sauber on track, which would make his life a lot easier. But like I said before, it's very easy to pick up a penalty. Is that a bit of rain, or is the rain already there, or was it just a little bit of grass? Not quite sure. But it looks like the rain will be arriving shortly. The mediums will start to drop off underneath the Red Bull of Brewdog. He's got a 3-second gap to Speedy. He's 8 seconds behind the leading 2. As Kainstan, with the help of DRS and Slipstream, will pull alongside and will retake the lead of this race on lap 14. Kainstan back into P1. Is Daniel gonna have a go on Speedy? He is up the inside of the final chicane. Oh, very close for contact between the two as he was trying to get behind. So Kelston and the Ferrari of Harry going wheel to wheel through the final chicane. Somehow they don't both end up into the wall, letting each other live, and Kelston will remain in front of the Ferrari for just a little bit more longer. Need to make those hard tires work for 20 to 22 laps, but all depends on when the rain arrives and how much rain there will be. I did see it was an icon of full wet for at least one weather slot, so it should rain quite significantly. So they will have to make it work, have to make these tires work till the rain arrives. I think, yeah, it's obviously going to be easier for the hard runners compared to the medium runners. 14 laps on these tires. Wizard of Oz up the inside of the final chicane is going to retake the lead of this race again. These two fighting it out constantly while the gap continues to grow to Brewdog, who is now going to be struggling on his 14 lap old mediums. Make that 15 laps as he crosses the line to start lap 16. nearing the halfway point of this race. These two once again going at it. Harry into turn 1. Re-overtakes the Sauber. These two are more busy with each other than trying to close the gap to the cars in front. 5 seconds is the gap between Harry and F1 XCYZ, as Bahamut Zero and Guido Ultimo fighting it out. And I must say, Bahamut Zero is doing quite a good job, despite having front wing damage, although now going wheel to wheel with the Aston Martin through chicane, which doesn't really work, and it doesn't, and the McLaren stays in front of the Aston Martin. Here we go again. Kainzon re-overtakes Wizard, and he's back into the lead of this race. As Wizard once again clobbers the wall on the exit. Oh, Kainzon now with a 3-second time penalty as well. That is going to make things interesting again, because now they will be equal on penalties. As Wizard is hitting every single wall he can find, as it seems like, coming out of turn 4 again. Fortunately for him, no damage to the front wing. Yellow flags are out, and that will be Martin once again having it off on the exit of the hairpin. Not the first time we've seen it in this race. In the meantime, F1 XCYZ, I think he just got past the Alpine of Daniel, who had a moment he must have had, because he's dropped out of DRS range almost. He's also 2.5 seconds now behind Speedy, who he was just close behind. Oh, into the wall goes Guido Ultimo, making contact with the McLaren. Damage to the front wing. Not completely lost his front wing, and he's not the only one going off, by the way. Real Aston Army, I think, had a moment as well in the V-Carb. Yeah, these two, they are on mediums who are getting worse lap by lap. The tire wear is getting to them. Cars will start to drop off as they wait for the rain to arrive. Harry once again gets past me. Here comes Kelston back up the inside into turn 1, wheel to wheel for, well, the 20th time it feels like between these two. Harry stays in front. Kelston with the switchback though underneath, and now on the inside of turn 3 and 4. Harry around the outside, contact between the two, has to cut across as Guido Ultimo gets a 10-second time penalty. These two still going wheel to wheel, very close between the wall, and Kelston hitting the back of the Ferrari. More contact between these two, and Harry is able to stay in front, but the gloves are coming off between Harry in the Ferrari and Kelston in the Williams, continuing to fight each other lap after lap after lap. Guido Ultimo has pitted, but they haven't replaced his front wing for some reason, and he's also picked up a 10-second penalty for speeding. By the way, Brewdog must have given to him. He's the only driver at the moment without a penalty, and he's still holding on these very worn out mediums. Kelston once again finds a way past the Ferrari, back up into 7th place. Yellow flags out again, and it's again for Martin. He's not having a great race at all. Gone off multiple times in Williams, and he's now down into 14th and last place. Means that Kainzon is pretty much on his own for the constructors today. And out of all these teams, Red Bull were in the worst position at the start of this race. Well, they're in P3 and P5 right now, and doing a very good job indeed. F1 XCYZ from P12 on the grid, currently in P5, 1.5 seconds behind Speedy, though with a 6-second time penalty. Lap 20. The rain still has not arrived. Daniel has crashed, or has he retired? What has happened to the Alpine? He is out of the race, but I'm not sure where. Did he retire in pit lane? Surely. I'm not sure why he would do that. He was in a good position to score good points. I'll check the race director to see if he retired from mechanical damage. Hasn't, so he did just retire in pit lane, and I'm seeing the rain is falling down on lap 20. It took 20 laps for the rain to arrive, but here it is finally. Wishart and Kyneson knows this is probably his last chance to overtake with DRS, and he's going to make use of that as he gets past the Sauber. Kyneson back into the lead of this race. As we go on to lap 21. Real Aston Army is going to be the first one to pit, putting on the intermediates. Might just be a little bit too early, as the track hasn't really gotten that wet yet, but it can go quite quickly on this game. Brewdog into the pit lane immediately. That is not a surprise. He was on the mediums. He needs to get rid of those as soon as possible. Speedy into the pit lane as well. Not speeding into the pit lane, fortunately. Both of them putting on the intermediates. The rest of them still staying out. I think the slicks are currently still the faster tire. We will find out soon if Brewdog is much faster than the car in front. Well, he certainly is right now. Kashan getting all out of shape, coming out of turn 2. Oh, and into the wall and out. Or is he? He's not out, but he's lost his front wing. Very close to being out as the McLaren finds the wall of turn 4. And if that was a safety car, that would have ruined Brewdog's races totally there, as he has just pitted, but Kishan struggling to keep it on track, struggling to keep it out of the wall. The rain is falling down, Kyneson is staying out, but Wishart is coming in. This could be a race deciding moment for the win. Has the better strategy? Is it still better to stay out on the slicks, or intermediates the faster tire? We're about to find out as Wizard of Oz comes out of the pit lane. Harry gets himself a 10-second penalty for speeding. Elston and F1XTYZ are staying out as well. And Harry fitting a brand new set of mediums. I'm not sure if that was intended, or he might have just forgot to switch it to intermediates, which would be very unlucky. 15.5 seconds is the gap between Wizard of Oz and Kyneson. I think it is getting more treacherous out there, and Wizard of Oz, he is gaining time. This might be the turning point. What is Kyneson gonna do at the end of lap 22? He is coming in. Kyneson into the pit lane, and he keeps it within the pit limiter, fortunately enough. But look at that, 14.7. Wizard of Oz has gained time. DRS has been disabled. That is usually the sign that intermediates are quicker. And where is he gonna come out? Is Wizard of Oz? Has he gone for the undercut? Has he played the strategy to perfection? Kyneson comes out of the pit lane. It's a straight line towards turn 2. But I think Wizard of Oz, yeah, he is ahead of the Williams by 1.3 seconds, 1.5. So that's a great strategic call from Wizard, but these conditions aren't easy at all. And he will have to keep his car on track and out of the barrier, which is easier said than done. Kelston into the pit lane, so as F1XTYZ and Harry once again, after fitting the mediums last time around in typical Ferrari fashion. And that was yellow flags. Was that for Speedy? I think it was. He's lost a lot of time to Brewdog and F1XTYZ, who's now all over the back of the V-car. I think Speedy just went off in turn 4. 0.5. is the gap between Wizard and Kainzan. It's going to be a matter of keeping within the white lines, because if Wizard of Oz picks up a 3-second time penalty, he knows he doesn't have the gap towards the Williams. He'll secure that win. BD has under massive pressure from behind, as the Red Bull looking to try and find a way past, because he won't be able to in the finals game. Probably get picked up a warning there, but he has got the better exit. On to the start-finish straight. Is he going to go to the outside? He is trying to find a way past, but round the outside is not going to work out. Contact between the two, and Speedy almost losing control over his car. I think F1XTYC just hit the back, the rear left tire of Speedy going into turn 1. Again, a bit of contact between the two. Once again, contact on the exit as well, as F1XTYC desperate to try and find a way past. Yellow flags are out, and it would be no surprise to see that it's Martin. He has spun once again in this race. It's not been going the way he would have wanted. F1XTYC has finally found a way past, and he's now up into P4, and he's got clean air to chase after, well, nobody really, because his teammate is 8 seconds ahead without a penalty. But he can now try and secure this 4th place. He will have to build a 3-second gap though towards Speedy. Around 10 laps to go. Wizard of Oz still leading this race by 1.1 seconds. For Kainzan, who has won the last 3 races. We see a change of that tonight. Wizard of Oz at the moment is our race leader. Kainzan is closing in once again. Within striking distance. And the gap's now down to under half a second. Oh, Wizard of Oz with a poor exit hits the wall. This is the opportunity for Kainzan to pull alongside on the inside into turn 1. The Williams and the Sauber going wheel to wheel. Wizard of Oz later on the brakes hangs it round the outside and is able to stay in front of the Williams. Nicely defended there by Wizard. He knows that turn 2 he will have the inside line, and he made good use of that. Oh, very close to losing control, spinning off into the barrier. As he's under massive pressure in very difficult conditions. Speedy still staying with F1XTYZ, which is all he needs to do to secure P4. Elston is in a very lonely P6. He's 12.5 seconds behind P5 and 11.6 ahead of P7. At the moment it's not looking too great for him in the Drivers' Championship, especially not if Wizard wins this race. But that is definitely not confirmed yet, because Kainzan putting immense pressure on the Sauber driver. Nearly Psycho has gone into the pit lane to fit a set of full wets. Martin just had another moment, but is the rain pouring down even heavier now? Are we going to go to full wet conditions? Are there drivers that are willing to stay out on the intermediates? Go for the gamble. We do also onto the wets. The wets aren't the faster tire on this game. Even in full wet conditions, the inters are sometimes perfectly fine. Shines on right behind in rainy conditions. It's difficult to find a way past on the straights. Have to do it in the corners. He's closing in, but he isn't getting close enough to go for the move. As both of them continue on to lap 28. 8 laps to go. Wizard versus Kainzan. They've got almost a full pit stop. Well, over a full pit stop advantage to Brewdog. Still remains the only driver without track limits. Which I must say is very impressive, especially in these conditions. But Brewdog is coming into the pit lane though, for a new set of intermediates. And that is an interesting decision. And I wonder if that was a planned decision, or if he meant to go onto the full wet. Either way, he's now back onto the track on a brand new set of intermediates, while others are switching to full wets. The rain is pouring it down right now. I think it's getting heavier by the looks of it. So is that a bit of a strategic blunder then by Brewdog, or a genuine mistake by selecting the wrong tire? Oh, Wizard of Oz, 3-second time penalty. That adds up to 6 seconds, and Kainzan has got 3 seconds, knowing that if he stays behind like this, he will be the one on the top step of the podium. Although Kainzan cannot risk anything, because he knows if he gets a 3-second time penalty, they're back to being equal again. Still remains very close to the back, as Real Eston Army is another one to go into the pit lane to full wets. It's really pouring it down right now. I think it's full wet conditions. Nobody else is coming into the pit lane though. Keep an eye out on Nearly Psycho with how he's doing. And Martin in the Williams comes into the pit lane as well. He will put on a brand new set of full wets, so the last 4 drivers out on track are all on the full wets. The top 9 still out there on intermediates with 6 laps to go. Yellow flags are out for Martin. Definitely not the first time in this race. Wizard of Oz 9 seconds, Kainzan 6 seconds. Didn't really pay attention, I suppose. But pressure is building as we near the final few stages. Speedy into the pit lane with 5 laps to go. Is that a good decision? He's gonna go on to the full wets. Might as well stay out with only a handful of laps remaining. And so on, I think just hit the back of Wizard. Still very close behind. Going to ERS, here comes Kainzan. Is he going to go for the move? Not quite. As Wizard also deploys a bit of ERS to try and fend off the Williams. Running a bit wide on the exit, so does Kainzan. Almost onto the grass as we go onto lap 31. 5 laps remaining. Kainzan still all over the back of the Sauber under braking. Losing control almost over his Williams, but able to keep it pointing in the right direction. F1 XTYZ is on course for a podium finish, though his teammate 7.5 seconds behind. think is within striking distance. He is, because connection-wise he has got a 9-second time penalty. But let's keep an eye out on this man, Speedy, who is the first man on the full wets. And oh, that's nearly Psycho. He's gone off on the exit of turn 3. And the Ferrari finds the barrier and is able to continue his race down in P10. Speedy is gaining, but he isn't gaining a lot. The Inters are still doing its thing. They're still working. 4 laps to go. Will Kainsan be able to win this race? All he needs to do is keep it within the white lines on these final few laps. And he will secure that race win. His 4th consecutive win that would be. But if he gets a time penalty, then Wizard of Oz is able to hold off the Williams. And Wizard of Oz could win this race. Would be a massive hit in the championship fight as well, with his teammate who is down in P5. Really, still not really gaining time on the Sauber, 5.5 seconds is the gap. And lap 32. We've got 3 laps to go. Kainsan closing the gap on the braking, but running a little bit too deep into 13. Was able to maintain his lead. Now, will it be enough? He's got 9 seconds worth of penalties. Kainsan has got 6 seconds. Meaning if he finishes within 3 seconds of his rival ahead of him, enough to secure the win. Brudok still without a penalty. Very, very impressive. Bahamut Zero still in this race with a 24-second penalty. I thought he would be disqualified at some point, but he's keeping it within the white lines in these final few laps. As he also is in a point scoring position, he could potentially finish P9. On to the penultimate lap of this race we go. Yellow flags once again. In the middle part of the lap, Wizard leads ahead of Kainsan, who's having a look up the inside, but he is going to stay behind for now. On the exit, Wizard make contact, all contact between the two, and Kainsan almost losing control over his car as a Wizard of Oz is, oh my god, nearly into the wall on the exit. That was way too close for comfort for Wizard, as the track is really getting treacherous out there. Getting very, very slippery, especially for the intermediate runners. And Kainsan is going to have to go up the inside. Here we go, wheel to wheel for the race lead on track. Kainsan on the inside. Wizard on the outside, contact between the two again. Wizard on the outside, Kainsan with the switchback. But Wizard able to put the power down earlier. And is still able to stay in front of Kainsan. What a battle for the lead we're seeing on these final few laps. Of Oz doing everything he can to remain in P1. But here comes Kainsan with the ERS and he blasts past the Kicksauber And Kainzan takes the lead of this race, going into the final lap. Williams is in front of the Sauber, and was that the moment that the win has been decided today. 14 corners remaining, 13, 12 for Kainzan. This could be his 4th consecutive race win. Navigating his way through sector 2, and he's building a gap slowly towards Wizard of Oz. Almost a second. All he has to do is keep it on track and not end up into the wall. Wizard has given up on fighting. Only a few corners remain for SKG Kainzan in the Williams, who is on course to add another win this season. Into the final corner we go, and the run to the line, and SKG Kainzan is gonna win the Canadian Grand Prix. He spins across the line almost too early there. Gap to Wizard of Oz 3.069, but Kainzan nonetheless is the winner of the Tier 5 Canadian Grand Prix, ahead of Wizard of Oz, which will not be enough for him to secure the championship, nor will it be for Red Bull. They will finish in P3 and P4. F1 XTYZ, with a great comeback drive from P12 on the grid, will finish P3 on track, but will end up behind his teammate Brewdog. He will get that final spot on the podium. Great drive from him, not getting a single penalty. Kelston will come across the line in P5, but Speedy right behind him had closed the gap on the mediums, on the full wets, sorry, and Speedy will get into P5. Kelston P6, losing quite a few points to his rivals. Then it will be the two McLarens of Kashan in P7, who had a moment on lap 1, even before turn 1. His teammate Bahamut Serra, with a 27-second time penalty, will finish in P8, but he finishes at least in the end behind Harry, who with less penalties finishes in 8th place. But what a drive from Kainzan and Wizard of Oz. What a battle we've seen between the two of them in these incredibly difficult conditions. It is Kainzan once again victorious. Win number 4 in a row. Magnificent. We look at the podium. It's Williams on top, and it's gonna be very close in the Constructors' Championship. 25 points for Williams, I'd say 26, and a few more for Martin. Points, I think, for Williams. Sauber, oh, nearly the same, I think around 30 points as well. And Red Bull, pretty similar. So the battle for both championships will go on towards Abu Dhabi. Wizard of Oz picks up the fastest lap point. Kainzan wins out of Wizard of Oz, Brewdog, F1 XTYC, Speedy, Kelston, Kishan, Harry, Bahamut Zero, Neri Psycho, Real Aston Army, Guido Ultimo, and Martin, the final finisher. Daniel, the Alpine, and the two Haas drivers are retired from this race. That's the end then of this race. And that's it from me as well then. Sure if I will be commentating next week for the finale of season 11. with tier 5. But thank you all for tuning into this race. Really appreciate it, and I'll see you guys next time. Have a good evening, and goodbye.